What's up, guys? Josh McKinney here at Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu Studios, and I just want to welcome you to episode 109 of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. Hope you guys are doing good. Haven't talked to you guys in a while. Thought I would do a random show today. This is how the random show is going to work. I'm going to talk about random stuff. Actually, I have a bunch of things from, I wanted to do an episode just kind of complaining about some things. And so I had some suggestions of things to complain about. And I thought it'd be fun, but I also thought it would be fun to talk some random jiu-jitsu theory, to talk some, I don't know, randomness about everything. I think next time I do a randomness, a random show, I'll probably try to do a few more questions so then I can like do them faster. But we'll do that next time. But right now, we're just going to jump right into the episode, man. Let's get it. So I wanted to start out with one of the things I've been asking people for like weeks now, things that make you angry or things that you think might make me angry. And I'll just talk about them on the podcast. And so this is a good one to start with. Die Hard. There are people out there that don't think that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And I think I could make some argument that I've made before on the show about how you can't take Christmas out of Die Hard with it being the same movie. So it's obviously a Christmas movie, but I'm not going to get into that. Instead, I feel like I should just pose a question. And the question is this: why is there a group of people who do everything in their power every single year to keep people from watching Die Hard on Christmas? It's not a Christmas movie. No, it makes me so mad that you watch it in the comfort of your own home, claim it's a Christmas movie. Why is that? Why are they angry? We really should not be debating on whether or not it's a Christmas movie. We should be debating on whether or not we want people who actually take it upon themselves to discourage you from watching Die Hard on Christmas, whether or not they should be part of our society. Think about it. Look into it, man. What are these people out there doing? What do you think they're putting their negative energy into when it's not Christmas time? It's scary, man. It's scary. Look, I get it. I get some people, maybe your wife, your nephew, your uncle, your niece, maybe they don't think that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Maybe they hate when people say that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And I don't want to offend you and ostracize people that are your family members and stuff. But I will say this: if that is your wife, nephew, uncle, son, father, whatever, if they think that, they're a bad person. What can I say? They're a bad person. All right, I need to stop talking about this. So we'll go to the next thing. The next thing that might get Josh really mad. Let's talk about it. Parents who yell at kids during competition. That's interesting. Yeah, that can get annoying. Parents who yell at kids for jiu-jitsu can get pretty annoying too, in all honesty. Mainly because people come into jiu-jitsu, like parents bring their kids into jiu-jitsu to like have better self-defense, to have better self-confidence, to lose weight, right? So you bring them in for a reason. And then for whatever reason, eventually that reason starts to die out and the competitive reason starts to overtake it. Not all parents do this, but a lot of times this happens. And so they start to get on this high horse of, this is how my child should be training to accomplish their competitive goals. Well, first off, they're probably your competitive goals. Most likely, your kid didn't go, Dad, I want to win worlds. I can't wait. They don't even know what worlds is. You put it on them a lot of the time. There are kids. I have kids in my gym that really do that. They do say, Dad, I want to win worlds. And those kids are nuts. But I'm saying parents that put that on their kids. And so somewhere it gets lost. And then they start to put a lot of pressure on their kids. All I will say is this: I don't know what the answer is to that. I I don't know how you get parents, because like every jiu-jitsu coach I talk to deals with this. I don't know how you get parents to not do stuff like yell at their kids at tournaments, be ignorant, be hated at the gym, stuff like that. I have a ton of really good parents that never do any of that stuff, that don't train. So don't think that I say the only way to deal with that is to make people train. I don't think it is. But I will say, I don't think I've ever once seen a parent who trains and competes, probably who just trains, but trains and competes, I will say for sure, that yelled at their kid at a tournament, or for having a bad practice or something like that, for not doing good, for not performing well in whatever the circumstance at the gym or whatever. I don't think I've ever seen that. Not once. So maybe it would be best to just suggest to a lot of the parents, hey, you should come and try out class, because this is substantially harder than you can comprehend. I know you watch stuff online and you think you understand, but until you've experienced it, you don't understand. And I know the idea that, well, no, there are coaches that don't train. John Danaher doesn't train. Yeah, he doesn't train anymore. He trained for like 20 years. That's why he got good. That's why he has a deep understanding. All you got to do is have a deeper understanding, and you will not yell at your kid about this, right? You can also flip it. You can look at it a different way and go, oh, well, if you just make sure your kid enjoys jiu-jitsu, they're going to stay in jiu-jitsu. They're going to get better. So when you do things that gives them a bad relationship with jiu-jitsu, you are going to, you do something that gives them a bad relationship, you're going to deter them from training. So try not to do that. Try to encourage them, keep them training, keep them doing jiu-jitsu. That is how they will do better, get better benefits. The longer you keep your kid doing jiu-jitsu, the better it will be for them, for their self-confidence, for their self-defense, all those things. And the best way to get your kid to hate jiu-jitsu is to be a jerk to your kid because of jiu-jitsu. That's all I'll say about that. Next, we'll talk about what are some other things that make Josh angry. People who make excuses for BJJ losses. I get so mad. This is actually something that does make me angry, meaning like when it happens, it's very hard for me to not have a negative impact on my mood. And very, very, very little on the planet actually causes me to have a negative impact on my mood. I can be pretty stoic in most things. But when people make excuses, the ref screwed me. Yeah, I lost, but my knee's been bothering me, and he got me in a leg lock on that leg. And so I just tapped. Whatever the excuse is. You lost. There's nothing else to it. You can either learn from it or you can make excuses about it. You cannot do both. If you only lost because the ref screwed you over, you're not going to show up at the gym the next day and say, okay, I need to get better at this guard pass that I missed 3 times. I was close on, but I just didn't understand how to finish it. Stop making excuses. Man, I had a friend publicly make an excuse about losing. And it really, really, really upset me. It really did, man. I really was frustrated about it. I was talking to some of my students about it. I just don't make excuses about it, dude. Whether it doesn't matter what the reason is. If you're injured, don't compete. If you compete, you knew going into the tournament, you were injured. It's not an excuse. If you would have won, there's no excuse. You just won, right? You either win or you lose. It just frustrates me when people try to act like it is more than it is. Sometimes refs suck. Sometimes refs actually do not give you points because of the country you were born in. Yes, that happens sometimes when it's close, when things are close. If you definitively go and smash somebody, you beat them. Okay. I know that we are, things are close. It's not easy. Just, I don't ever say like, oh, just go submit people. I don't think that is the answer. But there's always every match that I've ever lost, whether I was injured, whether I was sick, whether I was tired, whether it doesn't matter, no matter what reason, every match that I lost, I could have done something better at. I could have given myself a better chance to win. That's how you got to focus on jiu-jitsu. You got to stop being a freaking weenie, man. Next, we'll talk. Let's talk about cancel culture. Somebody wanted to hear me and my rant on cancel culture. Honestly, cancel culture is annoying. There's nothing we can do about it, though. The best thing you can do on it is understand that you are always a personal brand and you should always be focused on having a better impact as a personal brand. Don't do stuff that when people find out about, you're going to get in trouble for, because people always find out. Doesn't matter what you do and how tight you have it tied and, how, I've gotten away with this for years. Dude, people always find out. They do. It's just not smart. And cancel culture now makes it to where you can get found out that you dressed up as the wrong thing for Halloween and you just get ripped and canceled and nobody listens to you and everyone hates you now. There's just nothing. What can you do, man? I don't know. I think it's annoying, but I don't know what else we can do besides, I think of things as by the situation, right? To say that all women are telling the truth is ignorant, just like it's ignorant to say that all men are doing are good or all men are bad, right? Anytime you put an absolute in anything, unless it's that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, you're probably going to do yourself a disservice. And so when it comes to cancel culture, try to not be a part of it, man. Like, listen to what's going on. And if what it sounds like to you this sounds made up. If I hear something, let's say I heard something about my coach and it was something that was really bad. My immediate thought would be, yeah, this isn't true. I'm going to talk to Kyle about this. I would ask him. If it's somebody I don't have contact with and I go, man, the character that they display and everything I've ever heard about the person, it doesn't match up to what this cancel culture idea is, what they're saying. Maybe the dude is just a good liar and maybe he tricked you, right? So maybe that is the case. But sometimes you can say, wait, this doesn't add up. This doesn't make sense. I think I'm going to keep supporting this person until I actually know, or I think that I'm not going to make judgment until I actually know, right? And so I think that it's just, cancel culture sucks, but it's a world we live in. We got to know how to handle it. And one of the best ways to handle it is to, I think it's to not be a part of it especially when there's not facts. I honestly think that there is nothing wrong with canceling bad people. I don't think, and what canceling is taking away their platform. However they may do it, right? I don't think that there is anything wrong with a group of people saying we will not support this person because of something they did. I don't think that's wrong with it. Now, when you say you are evil and you support them because you listen to this song that they play, is that true? I don't think so. I don't think that you can. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like this. We're canceling everybody. Do you listen to Michael Jackson music? If Beat It comes on in Walmart, do you rush out of the store? I guess at what point is it where we stop with, I guess at what point is it consistent? That is something that's annoying, right? It seems like it's random. Like certain people get canceled for things Other people do things that are extraordinarily worse, and we all see it, but they don't get canceled. So I guess maybe the problem with cancel culture, like I said, this is a random show. I hadn't even thought about talking about cancel culture at all. This is just what's coming out of my mouth. So I guess the problem really is it's really making decisions on what's going on before it's time, before you have all the information. All right, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about how I'm viewing jujitsu right now. This is fun. This is a really fun one. So I'm viewing jujitsu as skills. Okay. So instead of, or at least training jujitsu, of course, jujitsu is the techniques that make jujitsu, but progressing at jujitsu, I am viewing as skills. What can you consider a skill? In I guess when we define this, when we think about this, right? I guess you have your attributes, which are like your physical things that you have, your strength, your speed, your stamina. You could break down strength into static strength, explosive strength, things like that. And then you have your skills, which are things that you can get better at, that are a requirement of jiu-jitsu, that are a tool of jiu-jitsu, I guess. Techniques are not skills. So for example, what I would consider a skill, and this is just how I'm thinking of jiu-jitsu right now. But what I would consider a skill would be like leg movement from on top in the guard, meaning like I'm trying to pass your guard, my ability to go east and west, like side to side, and north and south, run away from you and run towards you. Okay. You will find that the better the guard player, or the better the passer from standing, at least, the more common it is, the more comfortable they are walking side to side or walking back and forth. When somebody who's newer, when they get into the guard, it's like they do not want to move their legs. They will try to do the techniques, but they won't create the angles necessary by simply walking. Taking two steps to the left, and you would be able to do this pass. You stay where you're at, you can't do the pass. Looking at that as a skill, right? That's not a technique. Walking around the guard is not a technique, because we might do it with a Toriando pass. We might do it with a leg drag. We might do it with an X pass. We might do it to create an angle for a knee cut. But it's a skill that is necessary. You don't see any good guard passers not being able to move from side to side and front to back. So what you can do now is you can say, now that I've broken this down into a really important skill that does seem to separate really good guard passers from not so good guard passers, how do I develop it? Well, what you would do is you would break down, you would use some different ways to train. And this is why I always like to talk about different training methods. I'm actually in the middle of writing a book about all the training methods that I know and how to use them. Hopefully that's interesting to you guys. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be interesting, mainly because I don't think anyone talks about this. Nobody talks about that you should be training differently for different circumstances, for different goals. Nobody's thinking about this. They're only thinking about technique, and technique is so important, but it is not the only thing. And so how we would develop this skill of walking, of let's say east to west walking. Let's say we're not even going to do north to south. We're just going to break it down as small as we can. Walking left to right, left and right when I'm guard passing. What I would do is I would start with a technique. Let's start with a Toriando pass or bullfighter pass, whatever you call it. And I would get both pant legs, and I would start to drill me actually going around the guard and taking a lot of individual steps to do it. And then I would start to have my partner give me a little resistance, meaning like they're not even actually defending randomly. They're just like, hey, you're going to frame this time. So you push on me, and then I'm going to step around to the other side, right? Because my goal is mobility. My goal is not this specific technique. I am trying to develop an important skill. So I'm focused on being mobile. Each time I'm doing it, that's what I'm thinking about. I am deciding to get good at this skill. I'm thinking about going back and forth while my legs are moving more. I normally don't move my legs at all. I feel like I'm getting a little bit better at this. So now what I have to do is I have to start to turn it up because I'm not good at this skill yet. I just know how to do it against somebody who's giving me no resistance. So now what I want to do is I want my partner to increase the resistance where I'm doing this technique that's making me move my legs back and forth, but still letting me win. My partner is still letting me win. We call this designated winner. I am going in though each time and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to try to do my pass. And then he's making it close each time, and this is a skill as a bottom person to be able to be a good training partner for something like this, but he's making it close every time. Like, man, it's so hard. And it's making me have to take extra steps to get the pass, to complete the pass. Then what we could start to do is we could even start to positional spar eventually. And we may do this over weeks. If it's a really hard skill to develop or just a hard skill to develop for you, you would focus on it for a long time. And so like right now, my guys are focused on guard retention, and I broke it down into 2 specific skills and taught them it, let them spar it, and then made everyone make a conscious thought of this skill is the one that I'm not as good at, or I'm bad at both of these. I need to develop both of them. But then it lets you focus more on, well, now I'm just developing this one little thing. I can use techniques to develop it. I can use my strength, my speed, my athleticism to develop it. I can do all these different things to develop it. But it's just a new way for me of looking at jiu-jitsu as you're a video game character. You have attributes, you have skills. What we are trying to, and you have techniques that right? Those are the 3 different things. You're trying to optimize your attributes, your strength, your speed. So meaning I want to be the strongest version of Josh McKinney that I can be naturally. Okay. Because unnaturally, I bet you I'd be a lot stronger version of Josh McKinney. I also want to be the fastest. I want to be the most flexible. I want to be the healthiest version of myself, right? I think that you got to think of it like that too, because if you compare yourself to other people have different genetics than you. There are people that are, it feels like 100 times stronger than me when we roll. And there's just nothing I can do about it. I could deadlift all I wanted. I'm just not going to be as strong as them, right? So I don't worry about that. But this is the other thought. If you have an attribute that is a 10 out of 10 or an 11 out of 10 even, or you ever develop one, because sometimes we develop really, you just start to get better. You start to get physically better in the gym because you work hard, and or you lift or whatever, right? So you start to develop an attribute that's really important. Then you focus on building games around those attributes, doing different training methods and different ideas to develop these specific skills. And I don't want to get too much more into that, I guess, because I've already talked about it for a second, and the thoughts aren't complete on it. So I don't want to get so deep that I'm like, oh, okay, this is the part that I'm actually stuck here and I can't think through it, or whatever. Now let's talk about, where was my other one? I had a really good one to start to talk about. I think, all right, pause. I was struggling too much to think of where I needed to go. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about the next thing that annoys me, because like I said, I just got too far on that thought. Now let's go into it. What makes you illogically angry? People who don't who don't hit the gas when the light turns green. That really annoys me too. I hate it when people do that. Something else though that's annoying is how people make left turns. Let's talk about it. So when you're making a left turn, first off with a green arrow, just because you're at the front of the line, don't be a jerk and go slow. You've got 45 people behind you and you're like inching your way out because you're at the front of the line. As soon as the arrow turns green, oh, look, I'm just going to take my time turning left. I'm a black belt. If I was fast enough, I would run down your car and I would fight you to the death. But I can't because you took too long to turn left. So I'm not able to turn left. I'm at the red light. That's annoying. Something else, come on. When it's yellow, this is something like people in big cities, they comprehend this easily. But like people where I live in the Midwest, where cities aren't as big, and they have these weird rules of the road where they're like, yeah, this is how you have to operate, even though it's completely illogical. Again, on left turns, you're out in the middle of the lane because, you got to creep out for your left turn. The light turns red. What do? You just finish your turn. That's why you're out in the middle of the lane anyway. So the light could turn red. And legally speaking, in that situation, you are not supposed to try to back into the lane. First of all, it doesn't make sense. You're already in the middle of the road. Turn left. Second of all, it's the law. You're in the middle of the road. Why would there be any situation where you would ever start to back up? I don't get it. Okay, let's stop talking about that. It's getting a little too much. Steroids. This is a good one. Okay. This is something people bring up to me. They're always kind of surprised. Because like, obviously, I don't use steroids. A lot of the people that I compete against do. I don't care. It's not a huge deal to me. It really isn't. That's their choice. I get that there is a specific single governing body of jiu-jitsu that tests you once a year so they can test a few people once a year so they can put, hey, we have an anti-doping policy. I get that. And that's pretty annoying. So it does show it is against the rules, right? You are cheating, at least specifically for that, because they do have an anti-doping policy. You don't get caught. They obviously don't try really hard to catch you. If they did, you wouldn't get tested once a year at a specific tournament. But I just don't care. I don't know. It's just like some people are going to do it. I choose not to for my own reason, not because anyone else tells me it's right or wrong. I choose not to because I don't want to sacrifice my body now or my body tomorrow for a gold medal today. It just doesn't make sense to me. And yeah, man, I don't know. I think it would be a blast to get on steroids and to be stronger, be faster, train harder, and train more? Of course, I think that's great. When like guys get on like testosterone, they're like, yeah, you're gonna get, or they'll get on like HGH and stuff. They're like, yeah, you're gonna have better sleep too. These guys are not only bigger, stronger, faster, they sleep better than you too. Of course, it would make sense to want to do it. But for me, just not worth it to me. It's not something that I want to sacrifice. It's not something, honestly, it's not something I don't even look. I'm not saying whether or not I think morally you should or shouldn't do them. Because honestly, I just don't care. You can do whatever you want. I just know for me, I choose not to do that. Ooh, this is a good one. We'll switch questions. That the gi is not antiquated. After I Google it, what antiquated means is that the gi is not useful. It's not relevant anymore. Is the gi not relevant anymore? That is the question. IBJJF, the worlds were small this year. ADCC trials was so much bigger. It wasn't. I mean, IBJJF made more money than the ADCC trials did by far. So obviously they're not going anywhere. I think ever since I've been doing jiu-jitsu, there have always been two things, and they've always shifted. They've always changed what these two things are. But first is always like the way that jiu-jitsu is going. Jiu-jitsu is going to be all wrestling. It's going to be all, when I was coming up, it was going to be all 50-50 guard. It's going to be all De La Riva guard. It's going to be all berimbolo. That's all people are going to do now is berimbolo because it works so well. And, right? With you guys, anyone listening to this has probably heard about this shift. It's going to be all leg locks. Leg locks are all that there is. And then the other thing that there is in jiu-jitsu is something that is dying. Guard passing is dying. The gi is dying. No gi is dying. It's not. Gi and no gi are both going to keep growing because more people are doing jiu-jitsu. Anyone who gets out and makes a statement, yeah, jiu-jitsu, gi jiu-jitsu, it's going to be obsolete in a few years. You're an idiot. You know why? People like it. Maybe you don't want to do gi jiu-jitsu in a few years. That's fine. But to try to speak for 100% of people doing jiu-jitsu because you're like, yeah, I know for sure that everybody, they like no gi now. I'm pretty sure of it. Gordon said so I'm pretty sure. No, that's not true. People like what they like. People are going to compete in what they like, what they have fun with. Do I think that it would be awesome if, like a lot of people are talking about this. Buchecha talked about making matches like black belt match like 6 minutes or something like that. Do I think that would be awesome if black belt matches were not 10 minutes? Absolutely. Personally, I think they should be 7. But whether it happens or not, it's not going to get rid of the sport. I watched every match at the Gi Worlds for the black belts, minus when I was competing. But for the next 2 days, I watched every match. We just stayed there at the tournament, watched jiu-jitsu. It was a blast. And you're telling me gi jiu-jitsu is dying because there are some competitors that play 50-50 strategically? No, it's not. Stop being ignorant, man. Stop acting like the world is ending and jiu-jitsu is about to have this big problem and nobody knows it yet. All the injuries of leg locks. You don't know which way jiu-jitsu is going because there are millions of people doing jiu-jitsu. They're all giving their own input. They're all inventing their own stuff. They're all training their own way. To say for sure that you know which way jiu-jitsu is going, there's just no way. Maybe there is and I'm wrong. I don't know. Let's look at the next question. Next question, why isn't body triangle points? That's a good one. I don't know. It's not a question. Thing makes me mad. Yes, it is annoying to me that the body triangle is not points. I don't get that. That doesn't make sense. It's harder to get to the body triangle sometimes. Obviously, like, I don't know. The hooks are defended more now because of competition. But are the hooks more useful than a body lock, especially if you look at the fact that points are supposed to be like, they're supposed to be like this. You score points for places that you could strike, that you could do damage to the person. If it was a real fight, right? So if you sweep, if you go from bottom to top, if you take down, if you pass the guard, anything like that, right there, they should be points. Is figure 4 is body lock not a place that there should be points? Because I could strike you very hard and it'd be very, very hard for you to defend it at all if I had a body lock. Obviously, it'd be hard for you to defend it with hooks, but it's going to be hard for you to escape with a body lock. Why wouldn't that be points? I don't know. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, I won't get too much into it though. But yeah, the body lock thing, it is stupid. Okay, so a few people listen to the show pretty good, listen to it a lot. And I think are wanting me to get in some trouble because they ask some questions about things that they know annoy me, but I shouldn't probably talk about on a jiu-jitsu podcast because you know how these jiu-jitsu guys are. They get so mad about everything, but I'm going to talk about them anyway. Let's talk about warm-ups. And I had a thing saying that warm-ups were stupid in an episode. People were furious. People wanted to fight me. I'll still get a comment every once in a while on that, and people will just be bashing me about it. That did not listen to the episode. That is the important thing to note, is that they didn't listen to the episode. Even though the caption is, hey, don't take the title of this episode and assume you know what it's talking about. Everybody did. The title of the episode was Warm-Ups Are Stupid. What I was talking about is how there are a lot of places that try to do these specific to jiu-jitsu related warm-ups which can be great, but they act like it makes you better at jujitsu. For example, shrimping up and down the mats. The proof that I gave is pretty simple. It is that if shrimping up and down the mats actually helped you get better at shrimping in jujitsu, you would just shrimp up and down the mats and no one would ever get you in side control. No, that's not it. First of all, you're not going to get out of side control without some understanding of how to get out of side control. It's not the movement. It's not like I strengthen my shrimping muscles and then I can just shrimp out of side control. That ain't how it works. Or mount or wherever, right? I have to learn why I'm shrimping. I have to learn what frames I can make. I can learn how they might counter me. That is how you get good at something. It is not by drilling it mindlessly. You can learn a movement by drilling it, but drilling it mindlessly. Anytime you go to a gym where people do these warm-ups, you watch the arm bars. They're doing closed guard arm bars, and the dudes are just like flinging their legs around. They're just trying to move a little. What is the point of warming up to then sit for 30 minutes and learn technique where you are drilling, which is actually what you're going to be doing? You're drilling actual moves instead of just little bitty clips of things. You're drilling actual moves and you are getting warm during that time. What is the point of the pre-warm up where we use jujitsu techniques and it doesn't actually make us better at jujitsu? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, that was too much. See what I mean? Got a little angry, guys. I lost my cool because some people, I said earlier that there aren't things that actually make me angry. I'm trying to get angry on this episode, to be honest, because I said I would. So I don't know. So here's another one. The question asker. The question asker. We all know what I'm talking about. I'm at a seminar. Freaking blue belt, whoever, whatever his name is, he raises his hand after I show something. Anybody got any questions? Oh, he raises his hand. And he says something like this. Yeah, you could also step over the head and do a Kimura. Okay, man, that's not a question. Why did you raise your hand? Is this your seminar? Do you want to teach the seminar? Go ahead, by all means. Let's see what you have to show. Let's critique you. That's all I'll say about the question asker. Anyway, well, we all have them in our gym too. We all have question askers. Honestly, I handle my question askers by being really mean to them. So I actually aren't a lot of question askers in my gym because they get brutalized. At least for me, they ask questions of the nice guys, I guess. But yeah, don't like, I agree that there is no dumb question. I think that if you were asking a question for the sense of learning, there are too broad of questions that are almost like unanswerable. But if you're asking a question with the goal of learning, wanting to know the answer, I think that is always okay. If you're asking a question to try to make a statement and show that you know more than someone, or you know what's going on, that's annoying. People can see through it when you do it. Stop freaking doing it. I don't get it. I don't know. I don't get it. What about this is a good one. What about the rule that lower belts should make space for higher belts in rolling? Does that make you angry, Josh? Because I do bash every jujitsu thing, right? So this is something that I really think, this is how we do it at our gym, because I don't do that at my gym. I never tell guys like, hey, you got to move for the higher belt. And the reason is simple, is because sometimes it makes more sense for the other person to move. I'm really big on what makes sense versus what's tradition. So this is how I tell my guys to roll. Because there was a time where we would put like 40 people in 720 feet, 740 feet of mat space, which is like rolling live, which is obnoxious. So you're rolling shoulder to shoulder, but there are places that do that and don't have people getting injured because of it. And this is the rule that you follow. If you can see, if someone's close to you, you can see their legs, you should move. Very, very seldom are there ever injuries from someone like kicking someone else in the leg. Like basically, I'm rolling with somebody, I accidentally kick somebody and I kick them in the leg, right? Not a big deal. Happens all the time, honestly. No one even notices. Now, it happens sometimes where you get kicked in the head, you get concussed, you get hurt really bad, right? So what you do is you don't be by people's legs with your face. So if anyone's ever, and this is how I roll, I'm the black belt, I own the freaking gym. I can make people move. But if I am on my back and I see someone's legs close to me, I will immediately turn both of our, I won't even move us, just turn our heads the other way. So if I get kicked, I'm getting kicked in the leg. It doesn't even matter, right? It's not a big deal. Something else you can do is if you are taking a lot of space, then you should be good about moving back to where you started. Like if you're going across the whole mat and you're running into somebody, yeah, you're the problem. You should be better about that, right? If you're close on a submission and the person is trying to fight out, I think that that's a really important thing to be training, is like that closeness on submissions. It doesn't always happen. Again, I think that that person should probably take precedent, but the big rule that I follow, the simplest rule, is if you see legs, move your head. Because that's why we're trying to not run into each other. It's not that it's disrespectful to do so. It's so we don't injure each other, right? We don't want to run into each other to prevent injury. So try to prevent injury yourself. If everyone just is cognizant of themselves and they say, okay, I'm responsible for everything from my waist and above me, well, then no one's getting kicked in the head. Just my opinion on it. Could be wrong. I don't know. What are some other things? Oh, you know what really annoys me? I hear this all the time too. People will be like, this white belt, or let's even say this guy goes too hard. So I don't even know what that means. Not that there isn't such thing as going too hard, but like, okay, goes too hard for what? Obviously, if somebody is going hard and they're hurting people, somebody's going hard and they're kicking you and punching you and headbutting you, that's not even going too hard. That's just not controlling yourself enough, right? There are times that I will be going with one of my blue belts and they will be going as hard as they can. And it is not offensive to me. They're trying to pass my guard. I'm talking trash to them the whole time. They should be going hard. I think that there's this idea that if I am technically better than you, you shouldn't be allowed to beat me. And you see this like a lot of times older guys, they struggle with this when they're like a purple belt and they're losing to white belts. Well, he's a spaz. Okay, he is. Why are you here? Are you here to learn self-defense? You think that guy's going to be spazzing? Oh, he's a spaz and he hits me. Well, don't roll with that guy. He's an idiot, right? But like, oh, well, he just goes so hard to do this. He just tries to pass my guard so hard. Okay, that's not a big deal. It's not going to hurt you. You're not going to get hurt from a guy trying hard to pass your guard. You will get hurt from then saying, I'm going to fight fire with fire. I need to increase my intensity because this guy cannot be beating me. Because a lot of times that's what it is. The whole, this guy is a spaz. It is the only way that I could beat him would be to go harder, and beating him really matters to me. That is what you're saying a lot of the times. Man, this episode has been brutally honest. I shouldn't post this episode. I'm sorry, guys. This is a bad episode. I'm going to get in trouble for this. All right, this has helped. Every time that I run into that I'm talking about something bad, I will just switch to a different topic. Let's go with, what is a good one? Oh yeah, here's a perfect one that annoys me. People who hate people that do leg locks. Just learn to defend them. People that hate people that pull guard. Learn to pass their guard. That is the only reason that people hate these things. You never hear someone who's like, yeah, I hate guard pullers because it Anything else, then it's stupid, right? Oh yeah, it's stupid that you're pulling. We're doing jujitsu. This part is actually when we get on the ground is when it's jujitsu. So you would rather wrestle? We're doing jujitsu. Who cares? I think that everyone should have good stand up. I do think that you shouldn't be only able to pull guard. You see this problem at black belt. You see a lot of matches won and lost by guys that have horrible stand up because they're good guard players. And they say, well, I'm a good guard player. I don't have to stand. I can just pull guard. But if you don't understand distance management, you don't understand the grips, you still get taken down while you're trying to pull guard. And then you lose the match because of it. Learn to stand up, even if you are pulling guard. Man, I'm just really, okay. What would be another one? Let's go to something else. Let's see something else that makes Josh mad. Man, I'm running out of things that make me mad. This one makes me mad. When people come up to me, this happens to me all the freaking time. People that don't know me very well, and they come up to me, they'll be like, yeah, how did it go competing? Like, oh, whatever, however it went. And then they'll be like, yeah, all these guys are on steroids, but not you. Good for you, Josh. Like, how do you know I'm not on steroids? Why do you just come up and assume that I'm not on steroids because of my physical appearance? That's very offensive. That is the equivalent walking up to an adult black belt and being like, hey, I like you because you're natural, is the equivalent of walking up to a lady and saying, hey, when's the baby due? How are you going to comment on my physique like that? Hey, maybe I'm off cycle right now, man. Maybe I love steroids. I'm doing all the steroids. Maybe they're just not working very well. I don't know. You don't have to comment on it. How are you going to be like that? Happens to me so much. Happened to me twice in the same day at Worlds. That's brutal, man. That's brutal. I need to talk about something else. All right, let me look. All right, we'll go with next question. If you guys are watching the episode on YouTube and you're wondering how my jacket just appeared, it's because I had to pause the podcast so I could put on a jacket. It's cold at Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu Studios. Man, that's something tough, is having a podcast and figuring out a consistent place to record. I don't have a super huge house, but I do have an office. I have a dedicated office. But if you don't have a big house, sometimes, a lot of times, storage becomes, your office becomes storage, right? Because you just got too much stuff. And so that is what happens to me a lot of times with my office. It makes it hard. But what I always forget about is the fact that I have an entire recording studio in the gym. Well, it's not actually in the gym. It's a separate building, but at my gym. I just should come here more often. The only problem is it has a really loud heater. So the only way to keep this place warm enough during the Midwestern ice cold times is to turn on the heater. Well, the heater's super loud. I can't have it on. So I have to have it on for a few hours and then turn it off and then do a podcast. And I start to get really cold at the end of the podcast. And that's what happened to me right now. And so, yeah, you know what I could do? I could just buy one of those radiant heaters. Those are good. I don't know. I have one, but it's broken, so it doesn't help me. My life's a nightmare, guys. This is what it's like being in my head. Really, that's what the random show was, how I was jumping from one thing to the next. And then, that's what really the random show was, just a look into Josh McKinney's brain. Let's look at another question. This is a great one. Something that really I do not care for is how people think just because someone is a good jiu-jitsu competitor, that makes them a good teacher. Talked about it before in the podcast, that there's a difference between a teacher and a coach. And there is definitely a huge difference between a teacher, an athlete, and a coach. Those are three different things. And so to say because you win a world title or you win even whatever tournament, that makes you a good teacher, that makes you viable to learn from, I don't think that's true. Because if it was, the best athletes would produce the best students. And it's not always like that. you got to remember they are athletes. Some people can get away with not having super deep understandings of jiu-jitsu and still being amazing, unbelievable competitors because they're phenomenal athletes, or they're just around a great coach that gets them better without them even realizing how. And so, kind of like the big mistake, this really annoys me. This really frustrates me is people who teach moves that is not how they do the move. So like they will be like, yeah, this is how I do my knee cut. And then I'll roll with them and I'll feel them start to do their knee cut. I'll go, oh, that dude doesn't know how he actually does his knee cut. He's not aware of what his actual movements are. And that's what you have to do to be able to teach something. Something else you got to be able to do to teach. You got to be able to communicate with who you're dealing with, right? A lot of times people they think that they don't realize how important the language that they're using is, and the eye contact and the ability to keep people and the tone of your voice even. Those things are so important when it comes to learning, when it comes to keeping people's attention. That's what's super hard. I always, and you're always like worried about it when you are a good teacher. I'm constantly thinking on the podcast. I probably thought 15 times this episode, man, I hope this episode is interesting. I hope this episode doesn't suck. But I think that you try to get better at keeping people's attention. And also you try to figure out what helps people, what people like. And, when I teach seminars, I have a few that I teach specifically because they're very systemized. I've done them multiple times, so I can really deliver a great seminar. And I think that that's helpful. Something random I should have definitely announced at the beginning of this episode, but I guess I'll just announce now, is that I am doing a seminar. I'm part of one of 7 black belts is doing a seminar for a nonprofit company called A New Grip. And what they do is they help domestic violence survivors by giving them jujitsu and helping empower domestic violence survivors. And so if you guys are not busy on January 22nd, actually it will be January 23rd is when I'll be teaching. It's a 2-day seminar. You can pay for both days or you can pay for just one. And like I said, I will be teaching on Sunday. And so if you want to come, get your tickets. They said that there are not a ton left. And it's really a great group. Even if you did, I think you would really like doing both days too. It seems like it's a cool group of people to learn from. And so it should be really exciting. It should be a really fun time. Hope you guys can come out and be a part of it. I'll try to show some of my best stuff. I have some brand new ankle lock stuff that I'll show for the first time at this seminar. And so, and I'm excited to try to figure that out and try to see if it goes well, if it's understood well, right? And as a teacher, like we were just talking about, that's what you have to do is you have to experiment. You have to, it's like an art. There's an art to teaching, you have to say, it's just like with a stand-up act. I don't know if you guys are familiar with stand-up at all, but something that you will see, there's like this misconception that, oh, you're funny, you should do stand-up. Well, it's not always like that. Stand-up is an act. It's like, it's its own little art. These guys pause at the right time. They make the right movements. They make you feel what they need you to feel. And a good teacher does that too. And one of the best ways to be a good teacher is to teach the same thing and really pay attention to, when I say it this way, more people get it. When I say it this way, it really seemed to cause more confusion than anything. And so you be really cognizant of what you are teaching. I don't know how we got onto teaching. I was complaining about something. I don't know. Let's find another question. Let's go with another question. I got to get going soon, man. I got to teach a class in just a second. I think I told you guys this. I don't remember on this episode, but I did some class on guard retention, and man, not to toot my own horn, but they're pretty good. A lot of my students seem to be really enjoying it. And so hopefully they're not just telling me that because I've been gone for the last 2 weeks and they're like worried that I'm getting ready to quit jujitsu or something. So like, yeah, make sure no matter how bad class sucks that we tell Josh the class was great. Let's go on. Oh, That's a good one. That's a good one. Somebody wanted to know if Josh McKinney gets mad about jujitsu's white knights. This will be the last complaining thing that I go over, and then I'll finish with the new question that I've been finishing the show with. And so I thought I would ask myself that question. It might be fun. If you guys know what question I'm talking about, you're probably pumped. If you don't, you'll know in like 5 minutes. So the white knights of jiu-jitsu, these are people. This would be a perfect white knight of jiu-jitsu thing to say. Me, how I was just saying, like, about how I don't do steroids. If I like not only came out and said I don't do steroids, and then I was like, anyone who does steroids is a cheater. They're trash. There's no room for that in our sport and our art. When you know for a fact that I do steroids, you know that I'm, 55 years old and I'm shredded at 220 pounds. Like, yeah, come on. We know, we get it. Right. And so, and I know that you like, no one would do that. No, there is a huge group of people, a lot of people that you hear that like post a lot about, like anti-steroids. I'm not saying everybody, but I've just heard from people close that like a lot of the outspoken anti-steroid athletes are not. They're steroid athletes. They're outspoken, but that would be like, they call it like the white knights of jiu-jitsu. And they do that with like, you see this all the time. When somebody does something, this happens, and maybe you're not aware of this happens a lot in jiu-jitsu. How will I even say it? I want to say it, make sure we're being smart about how we say it on this public podcast. But there are sometimes people, and this is going to blow your mind, who abuse their position over other people. They're a coach at the gym or something like that. And then they abuse those positions for personal gain. Let's just say that. And whatever the situation is, maybe let's make it easy. Let's say they steal money from their students or something like that. They do something shady financially. And then you get a guy who gets on a high horse and starts bashing them on social media and stuff, when in all honesty, he does something very similar. He stole money from a different group of people a different way. And that is so annoying. And it's such a common thing in jiu-jitsu. It's probably a common thing everywhere, but it's because like people can get away with it, right? And if I'm being really loud about it, well, there's no way. It throws everybody off the scent. There's no way that Josh also steals money. There's no way that Josh also is screwing people over. And the white knights, that was a good thing to say, like, yeah, this makes me mad. I feel like not a lot of people use that term. I don't know. Maybe not enough. Maybe now they will. I don't know. All right. So we'll finish because I have to teach class in like 20 minutes and I'm not physically prepared. And because I'm cold in Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu Studios, to be honest. So we will go with Josh. We're going to finish with a question tonight. What is the best jiu-jitsu advice that you have ever gotten? And I have gotten, obviously, a ton of jiu-jitsu advice. I hadn't even thought about doing this when I just kind of thought of this right at the end of the episode, but I thought it'd be fun to do this question. For me, man, there are so many good things. Since I always ask the question of advice, sometimes it's fun to ask yourself a question that you ask a million people because you don't know how to answer it sometimes, right? What is the best jiu-jitsu advice that you've ever gotten is actually kind of hard because a lot of the jiu-jitsu lessons that we learn are lessons. They're not really as much advice that somebody sat us down and told them. They're things that we kind of discover on our own and we discover about ourselves, right? But that's a tough one. Okay, I got it. I can remember the conversation completely. I'll give two because first was I look at these like defining moments that changed how I looked at training jujitsu. And the first one was I was doing a private lesson with my coach's coach, Jack. It was at the time, he was my coach's coach. And we were just talking about the idea of positional sparring. And I think I was a blue belt. And I'd positional sparred, of course, I just had never really heard of the importance of it. And Jack gave this example of, you like when you're a pilot, he goes, you don't just learn how to fly in a book and then you just do it. He says you have to log all these hours before you get your pilot license. And he goes, you got to think of each position of jujitsu like that. Even if you know some technique, because you don't know it until you've logged your hours. And it was the first time that we started going, okay, there are some different ways to train. Not like I went and implemented those things immediately. And it really wasn't a necessity when I was a blue belt. I was still training at my coach's gym and he did a great job of getting us better. And so I didn't need it, right? Then the next advice was later on at blue belt. And this was right before I needed it. And I didn't know that I needed it. When I was a blue belt, my coach moved locations and it was just harder for us to get to. This wasn't a time where there was just jiu-jitsu gyms everywhere, right? Now, if your coach moved, there's probably another school in your town for a lot of people, right? It wasn't like that. It was like, I'm sticking with my coach regardless. And he's moving. It's a little bit hard for us to make it to class on time though with work. And so we started having to train ourselves. Well, I had gotten really good advice when we were kind of in that phase of training ourselves and learning how to get better. Okay. And I've gotten this advice many other times, but this is the best jiu-jitsu advice that I've ever gotten. It really affected how I trained. Was Sean Williams said, roll without strength. And I've talked about this. You guys listen to the episode. It's actually our most listened to episode is Sean Williams' episode. And he talks about the idea of rolling without strength. And it's really, really good. When he told me that, it was this really cool thing where he said, hey, basically, how do you know your technique works if you're still using strength, speed, and flexibility for it? What if you're just using timing and technique? And what if you stopped using your strength? And I did. He convinced me to basically to stop using strength and rolling. And it wasn't always. I would use it sometimes, but most of the time I wouldn't use strength. And what started happening is I started feeling things happen. And it got to a point where I was like, man, I'm not having to use any strength against like blue belts. And then all of a sudden, I was having to use strength against purple belts and then brown belts. And then even some black belts that I go with now, I don't have to use any strength at all. Meaning like when I go, I know and they know that I am not physically fighting anything that they're doing. I am only keeping them locked in with technique and timing, my weight, my technique, and my timing. And that's it. And you get to do that. And like, one, you can train longer when you do that. You can train more. And two, you feel so much. Kenny Florian's advice at the end of the ISAJJ Jiu-Jitsu show, his episode was, don't think, feel. And it was a Bruce Lee quote. But one of the best ways to learn to feel in jiu-jitsu is to stop straining. It is to start feeling. It is to start doing just technique and just timing. I think that you shouldn't do this until at least you're a blue belt. At white belt, I just think it's too hard for most white belts to get. You need to almost use some strength to even get your body in the right position at first, right? But once you start to understand the positions and understand the movements, try rolling without strength. At first, you're going to get killed. You're going to get submitted way more than usual. It's going to be really frustrating. But if you stick through it, eventually you are going to know what truly is technique and timing and what is strength. You'll know the difference. Most people don't even know the difference. They think that all techniques require strength. Some techniques require like just laying on the person with the right understanding and the right weight distribution. And you will start to understand that more when you stop muscling, you stop squeezing, and you start feeling. So that's the best jiu-jitsu advice I've ever gotten. That's what I'll leave you guys with. Again, a new grip seminar. I will make sure that the link is in my description on Instagram at the Josh McKinney if you guys want to check it out. Hope today's episode was good for you guys. I enjoyed just sitting and talking with you guys for a little bit. If you enjoyed the random show, let me know and I'll do more of these. Obviously, random shows are pretty much going to be the easiest thing for me to put out because, well, they're random. It's just me talking about random stuff. So if you guys like that, let me know. If you have some ideas of different people that you want to hear me interview, please let me know. That is one of the harder things, is not anymore for me getting people on my podcast. It's deciding who to ask. And, like the way I know is if you guys tell me specifically of people you would like for me to have on, or specifically some problems that you've been having in jiu-jitsu. Because there are times that I will say, oh, I'm not the best at this, but I know somebody who's great at discussing this, and then I bring them on. And so, and it doesn't just have to be technique. It doesn't just have to be training. It can be situational things that are happening specifically to you that relate to jiu-jitsu. Your gym and your gym is closing down and you don't know how to handle it, or you're getting to a point where you need to leave the gym. Just ask. I am always happy to answer those questions. Like I said, you can ask me on Instagram or you can email me, josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com. Hope today's episode was good for you. Hope it helped you suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys. What's up, guys? Josh here again. I just wanted to give you a little more information on some of the other content that I produce that isn't just the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. If you are wanting more information on how to become more efficient and effective in your jiu-jitsu training, the number one thing that I always recommend to people is my Patreon page, the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show Patreon page, because we release a 5 to 15 minute exclusive episode every single Saturday. This is called Suck Less Saturday, and it is completely focused on being for your jiu-jitsu training, for your jiu-jitsu mindset, and for your jiu-jitsu progression. And so what we'll do is a quick but deep dive on a different thought, idea, or training method every single Saturday. And you can only get this on our Patreon page. I also have a few spots open, depending on what time you're listening to this podcast, for my Suck Less coaching. What that is a monthly cost to get a monthly meeting with me where we meet over Zoom and set some goals based on what you are trying to accomplish in jiu-jitsu, and set some different training methods to help you get there. There's nothing like this online right now. There is no jiu-jitsu coaching that teaches you how you should be training, and it is exclusively on the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Patreon page. Also, if you guys want to just be in more contact, or you want to learn a little more about my ideas in jiu-jitsu, I highly recommend that you sign up for Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu. It is a free ebook. It is at simplifyingjujitsu.com. And what we do is we break down the top 5 positions, the essential 5 positions of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. These are the 5 positions where most Jiu-Jitsu, 90+% of Jiu-Jitsu takes place in. And we break down how to train them, how long you should be training them, and what order you can train these things to progress faster and easier with your jiu-jitsu. And lastly, if you guys would just give this show a subscribe and a share, it would be very greatly appreciated. Also, you can review us on certain podcast platforms. If you guys want to keep up with me personally, you can follow me at my Instagram at the Josh McKinney. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for listening. I hope that you guys listen to the next one.